Welcome to my weekly review. Today is Saturday, February 22. And well, first of all, thank you for tuning in. I just want to point out that last week was the worst week on the Nasdaq since November 15th of 2024. Got to go back, I don't know, back here. There it is, down 3.15% that week. And then the last week we had our best week of 2025, and this week we had our worst week. So that's just kind of the chop. You can see the chop here on the weekly chart. Choppy environment that we are in. The Nasdaq lost 502 points, or 2.51% last week, 11% below the weekly volume average, the 10-week. But the thing about it is there was a holiday, President's Day. It's only 4 trading days. Anyway, I want to go to the daily chart on the Nasdaq. Whoops. Okay. Just got a little annotated chart here. Just pointing out that the December 16th was the high there of 20,204. Tried to make another high here in January. Couldn't do it. Got rejected. So you're looking at a lower high here on the index. So there was the high on, the 16th. And of course, after Powell, had that hawkish cut, the market's been chopping ever since on the 18th. It made a lower high here of 20,118 on the 24th, as I said. Then last week, was it Tuesday, made another, lower high of 20,110, which is below the 118. And then proceeded to sell off. I think it was up 2 days in a row, 0.007%, and then had a nice sharp sell off. Anyway, higher lows, lower highs. So this is just the chop session that we're in right now. It's still in an uptrend, longer term. Since the 18th when Powell spoke, the December 18th hawkish cut, it's just been in this choppy range. And I wanted to point out one thing that's kind of a little annoying or disturbing is that these Fridays have been days for selling. Our friend Mike Webster at IBD talks about the Friday is important. On the 24th, we had a severe sell-off. The 31st, the same thing. February 7th, nasty sell-off on these Fridays. Last Friday on the 14th, we got a box of chocolates and we had a nice up day. But then yesterday, here you go. Just, and there was talk about the, Wuhan lab with COVID, and that's going to trigger the algorithms and also, talk of tariffs. That triggers the algos to sell. So it's just a lot of selling on Friday, a little bit of panic selling. I would say if you look at this, every time the Nasdaq goes below the 50, if you want to look at the positive side, since the hawkish cut, every time it goes below the 50, it rallies back up. And now we're below the 50. It closed 0.8% below the 50, if I could zoom in here. So maybe it'll have a down day on Monday. That's what I would expect. And then maybe a gap down on Tuesday and have a reversal. We could have a turnaround Tuesday. And that's what I'm looking for next week. But if it starts gapping up, on Monday morning, that would be an area for me to say, just take some profits if you're still in the market. Yeah, I went all cash on Friday because when I have 3 or 4 losing trades in a row, I just reset, just get rid of everything and start over, and just do some post analysis on recent trades. And I'm going to get to that here. And some of the trades, it was just no rhyme or reason. It just leading stocks just fell out. And when that happens, I mean, it's not your fault. It's just the market telling you something, and you better listen. This is the S&P. Now, this one did make a new high. That's 6,099 was taken out by 6,128. Then last week, it made a new high on Wednesday of 6,147. So, we're off to the races, right? And then the next 2 days, it's just, down, less than 0.5%. And then on Friday, down 1.7%. So not ideal, but, just pull back to the 50. So I wouldn't get too bearish, overly bearish here. The indexers are still, near their highs and, still in an uptrend. It's just there's some selling and it's a choppy tape. One area that I wanted to point out, because I'm a swing trader, I trade growth stocks and I try to feature growth stocks on my videos. The IBD, Innovator 50 kind of had a tough week here, a little waterfall action, 4 days in a row of selling. And these are growth stocks like, Palantir and Sprouts, Farmers Market, and Hims and Hers are some of the top holdings in this group. And it was down nearly 12.5% last week with volume. So just telling you that the growth names, I can go to Kathy's, Kathy's down more than 10% on her ARK-K last week. So that's just telling you that the growth stocks are getting hammered. The algos, they sell the risk, right? And then they flight to safety, stuff like, Procter and Gamble and Clorox and stuff like that, that I'm not interested in for swing trading. Anyway, I don't trade indexes, I trade stocks. And I'm going to go through some stocks here. And I think the most important earnings report last week, I want to start with the earnings report from last week. It was Walmart. They had a good report, but they warned going forward. Their guidance was weak, and they cited the tariffs. There was an uncertainty, and whenever the market's uncertain about something, they just sell. Sell first, ask questions later. So, there's no telling if it'll even have any impact on Walmart, but it's selling off, on the weak guidance. So you just take it for what don't try to fight it. They're being sold, so don't try to fight it. So BABA reported, and then there was they reported, I think, Wednesday and had a nice day, Thursday or whatever, maybe Thursday morning. Anyway, and then there was a report on Friday that Mets owner Cohen was a buyer of BABA, so it went up a nice, nearly 6% on Friday when they Nasdaq and the SPY, which I just showed you, were having a hard time. CDNS, semiconductor chip designer, just negative response to their earnings report. Shift for payments reported last week, obviously a negative response to their, oh boy, like 18% on Wednesday. TOST reported the following day. And then Thursday had a decent reaction off the 50, and then Friday, like everything else, sold off 6%. And when you see the Nasdaq down, what did I say? 3% last week, you got to expect your growth stocks to be down 6, 7, 8, 10%, because they're going to go down 2 or 3 times the index. So it was a really rough week for the growth stocks. All right, Toll Brothers. This is the housing. Housing. The rates are just too high, and so the housing market is just radioactive. You got to stay away from these. Baxter reported, had a nice response, still below the 200. Unity Software reported, had a nice gap up on Thursday of 30%, and then followed up on Friday. It looked like it was really going to ramp, and then the news hit, the tape, and then sold off, but still up on the session. So there was a gap day, then another gap day, then pulled back to fill that gap there at 28.01. So that's a healthy positive if you're looking for positive. Then of course, Live Nation reported, and folks going to shows, and still, anything above the 21 in this tape, is pretty strong. And then anything above the 10 is ideal, and that's what I'm looking for with strengths. I want to go through leaders now, get off the earnings bit for a while, and just go to some of the leaders. AppLovin, you think, oh man, it had a rough day. There was a short report saying that some of their data is fraudulent. Who knows? All a short seller has to do is create a little fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and the stock goes down, and they can cover, and they've done their job. So that's the whole point of a short seller report. I'll just point out that the week before, 2 weeks ago, AppLovin was up 35%. Last week it gave back half, 18 and a half. So I don't know. I think that's pretty normal. I wouldn't say this is anything abnormal that it's doing. A stock that goes up like that pulls back to its 50. And I tell you, I don't have a lot of stocks on my ready list for next week, but this is one because I believe if the Nasdaq recovers at 417, I'm a buyer, and I'll just cut out. If I'm down 5%, I just get out. It doesn't hurt. If the index is doing well, this thing's probably going to lead. And if the index is not doing well, this thing's probably going to suffer. But, I'm willing to probe a couple of leading stocks in the market. Palantir, obviously, this is another one of these leading software names. Just going through some software here, just pulled back to its 21. had a couple of bad news days. I guess the CEO was selling shares, and on Wednesday was down 10%, followed it up with a 5% move. Now it looked like it was going to bounce on Friday until all this negative news hit the tape and the algos went crazy. But it's still, as we look here, it's just a tick above its 21. So, just like App 11, above the 21, I can live with that. Below it becomes a little more problematic. CrowdStrike got hit with a DOJ investigation. Little surprising that this DOJ is being pretty aggressive here. It surprises me, but you can see it's below the 21. So I'm not going to entertain this one. Yeah, it has that old buy point at 389. And if it comes down to there, then kind of stabilizes and stalls and stops going down, I would entertain CrowdStrike and just got to see what happens next week. Just go in with an open mind, be flexible, and if it starts to bounce, I don't buy the dips, but I will buy the bounce. And if they start bouncing, you just got to be flexible and just be more aggressive and dive into stuff. Shopify, one that I had on our ready list, I think 2 weeks ago. And had a nice breakout, not a breakout. It had a nice move following its earnings report, but then on Friday sliced its 21. Still back near that 120 area. And you could even say that 115.37. Maybe that'll be support there. So it's another one that I'm watching. If it can, bounce around, just kind of stabilize here and not slice the 50. Maybe it'll just pull back to its 50, but it's another one that I'm watching. Obviously got slaughtered last week. That goes without saying. Yeah, down 10%, which is kind of normal for growth stocks. Like I said, when the index GoDaddy, another one of these software leaders, had a nice run for a long, long time. Totally quiet Kelly Slater stock, surfing its moving average, easy to hold. Then all of a sudden, and this is what growth stocks will do. They'll take the stairs up and the elevator down. This one went from 216 to 173 in a very short period of time. That's a little too much pain for me to take. And I think that was an earnings move below the 50. So it's adios muchachos for GoDaddy. And the Cloudflare, another leading software name. Yeah, it sold off all 4 days last week, 5 days in a row of selling, but all it did really was pull back to its 21, down 11%. But you can see 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, it was up 20%, followed it up with a higher high of a 2.5% gain, and then just gave back 11% last week. So, like I said, these leading software names, their growth stocks are going to correct more than the index, and they're also going to appreciate, more than the index. It's a Spotify, and that's what we want. We want the outperformers to the upside. We don't want anything to do with them on the downside. Spotify had the gap up, and this one's holding its gap really well. This is very impressive. It had this gap on the February 4th of 13%, just holding its gains, just forming this like shelf type pattern. This is your gap day here. So anything in there that looks pretty good to me for Spotify if the market starts to cooperate. And I believe it will. I think sometime in the middle of next week it's gonna, get its footing and it's not gonna just crash and burn. Although it might. Anything can happen in the market. We've learned from a Mark Douglas trading in the zone, right? Anything can happen and usually does. All right. Got to go to some of the hardware names that have just been murdered. And I don't want to get too much into the, this is Micron. This one's just been bad for a long time. AMD, another hardware name. Yeah, these things have been crushed for a while now. This is not just a recent phenomenon. This is Broadcom, which is consolidating in a base. I had high hopes for this one, put on the ready list as it came down to its 50 for the first time since the breakout of this double bottom base. Had a nice little rally, formed this little shelf, trading tight within the base. But last week, sold off 3 of 4 days and just had a tough week, down 6%, pretty much like everything else, right? What else we have in the hardware? I'm going to do NVIDIA later because they're reporting earnings. ALAB, which was a big winner here in 2024, had this nice uptrend, but this is an IPO stock, so it might still be going through its due diligence phase and just needs to form a base, report a couple more stronger quarters, and that thing is definitely one that I'm watching, but not actionable right now. And since I'm not coming back to this area, I got to show Reddit, kind of like ALAB had this nice move in 2024, now just selling off. And once again, maybe, it's got to report a couple strong quarters. Maybe it'll form a base for a few months and, then start its uptrend once again. But this one sliced its 50 with heavy volume. Anyway, I'm going to move on. I talked about some of the names, like if you're in AXON, this is a nice little chart here. Cup with handle pattern, and it pulled back, beautifully textbook to the 21, then bounced on. Let me get the track price here. What day was this? Was it last Friday? The 14th. Yeah, Valentine's Day was up, nearly 3% bouncing. So if you bought that bounce, that's understandable, right? This is looking like it's going to break out. On Tuesday, we come back from holiday, a 3-day weekend, and it's up nearly 4%. So if you bought down here, at the low of that day, 648, 650, even 660 or whatever. Then it rallies up to 716 on, Monday or Tuesday. You're thinking, hey, this is a great trade. It's working for me. I bought on Thursday or Friday, and now I'm up a few percent and I'm looking good. And then you just come in and get slaughtered on a downgrade. 116 points or 16% follows through with another downgrade on Thursday, follows through to the downside, 8.7%, then on Friday, 5%. So, obviously you have a stop in 5% loss, and your win probably turns into a loss. And if you didn't sell it 5% loss, you certainly sold it, when it sliced its 50 with this volume here. So a profit turns into a loss. That's what I'm talking about. You didn't do anything wrong. You kind of bought right, properly. Your move was working for you, and all of a sudden, boom, profit turns into a loss, and the trade works against you. To me, this is a sign that, the market's telling you, something that we're doing with these breakout trades that aren't working. So you got to listen to that, and you got to adjust. You got to, write it down, journal, post analysis, what you did right, what you did wrong, why you bought the stock. And, I could see plenty of reasons to buy this stock. It's got institutional sponsorship up the wazoo, and it's in a nice cup pattern. It's formed the base. You got the sellers out. There's some institutions nibbling here. Looks like it's going to break out. So, you did everything right, but it just had a bad result. So to me, that tells me a lot about the market. I mean, it's not the only one. Like CAVA was a leading restaurant name. This one was setting up in a base, and this thing just got murdered last week. Excuse me. I'm sorry for using that term. It just sold off aggressively up. Excuse me, down 17.5% last week. That is a tough week. And then prior, leaders that showed us Deckers, this is definitely, if you just look longer term, this one's been a leading shoe stock for many, many, many years. And I just go to the weekly, I mean, broke out of a base, making new highs, and then all of a sudden stairs up and the elevator down. So Abercrombie and Fitch, same way, a leading apparel stock, just selling off a hard Coinbase, a crypto name, just down to its 200 now. So there's a lot of signs in the market telling us, the leaders are telling us this is not a great environment, and new leaders will emerge. Eventually, the same old leaders aren't going to lead. There's going to be new leaders, so you got to watch for that as well. One area that you just got to stay away from. I mentioned Toll Brothers earlier, is these housing stocks. The rates are just too high. These things, labor's a problem. There's just too many problems here. Pulte Homes, Lennar, DR Horton, they're all the same. Anyway, okay, I'm going to move on because that's enough carnage. We did the triage report on Thursday, a lot of carnage. So I want to get to something a little more constructive, a little more positive. And that's some of these finance, consumer loan stocks. This is Mr. Cooper. They do mortgage loans and, not bad growth numbers. Set up in a base, straight up from the bottom, kind of went sideways. Had this one quirky day where it pulled back near its 50, but making new highs. So Mr. Cooper, maybe this is a new leader. I'm try to be open-minded and not closed off to any stock that, might want to be, it's showing strength and a relative strength in a weak tape. This is Applied Digital, one of these financial services specialty, and it's got the growth, sales growth that we're looking for, and it's trying to break out of a base. You can see the relative strength, obviously, with the market being weak here. Any strong stock up 17% last week is going to be showing relative strength. Another one in the group, this one reported earnings, I believe, last week. Nice response, forming a base. This is a nice constructive pattern here. This is Clearwater Analytics, another one of these computer software financial stocks. So all is not lost. I'm just trying to show you some strength. I could show you carnage all day long, and I don't want to do that. So that group is looking good. Another area that, I bought this one on Friday, put it on the ready list, and then it started to ramp and it turned around on me. And I was out golfing, honestly. I wasn't really paying that much attention. This thing was up like $34. Yeah, and then I looked at it, it's like 29. I'm like, what the hell happened? And that's when the Wuhan, the virus story emerged and everything just sold off in a panic. This one kind of sold off, and flattened out. It didn't just crater into the lows at the close, but it's still up on the day. So, with the Nasdaq cratering, this thing's showing strength, and I would watch it next week. And, just going forward, I think they've got an announcement coming this week. So definitely one to watch for. Another one is INOD. They reported last week, data, and a nice response, broke out of a base. You can see it pull back to its 10 there and then bounced on Friday, 13%. We'll take that. Yeah, 15% weak as it breaks out of this stage 2 base. So data, this computer tech services group looks pretty good. The last one I wanted to show, you're not going to believe it. IBM broke out of the base. This looks like Spotify, right? Breaks out, big move, and then it's holding its gains. It's not selling off like the rest of the market. So yeah, 13% move. All it did was pull back to its 10, and now it's, surfing its 10. So just acknowledging strength there. I'm not saying go out and buy it, but just one that I have that I'm watching. Uh, I like stocks that show strength. So that means I got to get to the BABA. I already went through the BABA stock on their earnings, so I'm going to go to some of the other names. I'm just going to go through them quickly. I'm just acknowledging strength here, in the market, and the China market has been really strong in some of these stocks. Trading in the US, these ADRs aren't showing strength there. This is a PDD, through its 200 FUTU. Another stock showing strength here. Oh, closed at 121. So that one was impacted. I thought it was around 130. Yeah, 130, and then just sold off into the close. So that's a pretty rough day, 130 to 121. Still closed higher though. So that's what I'm saying, showing strength. HSAI, another one, just surfing the moving averages. Yep. So just acknowledging strength there. That looks like just one big IPO base. ATAT, this is leisure lodging, broke out of this, looks like base on base pattern here. Yeah. So just acknowledging some strength here. And then the last one is ONC, and yeah, broke out. Yeah, so just acknowledging strength in that area. Another area, and you're not going to believe this because they've been down so long, the Jim Morrison trade. The drug stocks are starting to perk up. This is AXSM. They reported, had a nice report, formed this little, pennant or flag pattern, following that earnings report, and then popped on Friday. Definitely one to watch there. AXSM, they have a nice pipeline. VRNA, VRNA, not RNA. Gosh, we don't want to go there. This is yeah, showing strength as well. Surfing its 10 EMA quietly. Nobody talks about this one, and it's been doing it for a long, long time. So I know if I bought it here, it would pull back to its 21 immediately or worse. So I don't touch this. I don't chase performance, just acknowledging it. Abbott Lab, this is, kind of a larger 234 billion market cap stock, breaking out, trading higher, surfing its 10, showing strength. So this is, a thing of beauty, and a tape like we're experiencing. Yeah, that's up like 6 weeks in a row with heavy volume. So yeah, Abbott Labs definitely got to have that one on the watch list. TGTX, I'm liking this one a lot. I know it's below its 50. I know it's trading quiet. Nobody talks about TGTX. They're going to report earnings pretty soon. They're also going to release some trial data, I think the first week of March. So that could be explosive in either direction. This is not a speculative biotech stock, though. They have real earnings. They have a best-in-class drug. This thing's setting up in a base. You can see here 13 weeks, stage 2 base, 26% depth in the base, cup with handle pattern, 16% off its high. I like this one a lot, and I would put this one on the ready list, although they're going to report earnings soon. March 4th. That could be a real big week. That's it hasn't been announced because they'll announce it one day and then report the next because the CEO knows there's a lot of shorts in here and he's trying to blow them up, and I think he will eventually. Speaking of blowing up shorts, WGS reported last week and had a nice move of yeah 47%, and then just gave some back a little bit on the last 3 days, but just pulled back to its 10. So like I said earlier, any stock above its 10 is healthy, and to me, that 98 area right below 100, that might be an area to buy, or the old buy point of 89.11 possibly. But I would like to see a bounce through 100 with volume before I even entertained that one. And this is a drug stock with real earnings and real, sales growth. The last one I'm going to show in the drug, and I'm showing a lot of drug stocks here. So there's a lot of strength in drugs. This is IRTC medical services stock. You can see the group here, medical services, top 15 stock group, have this little shelf pattern and blasted higher. There you see, breaking out of that like 5 week shelf pattern last week, up 6.5%. So anyway, another, quickly, I'm just going to go through the miners. AEM miner doing well. This is gold. AGI, another gold stock doing well. And when in doubt, just type in gold. And what do you got? It's forming a base, not bad. And then of course, I am gold is another one that I've been watching. Whoa, nice pullback. Looks like the software name pulling back to the 50 there. Anyway, some utilities as well. The utilities stocks are up, kind of a defensive thing. This is CenterPoint Energy, just acknowledging strength once again because I don't want to go through the carnage and all the negativity and wallow in, oh, the market sucks and everything's ugly. It's not. There is some strength there. I know these are utilities. This is Wisconsin Energy, or what formerly was Wisconsin Energy. Now it's WEC Energy Group. And the last one I'm going to show is DTE. Once again, trying to break out of a base, showing strength in a weak tape. And there you have it. Thank you for watching my weekly review. Don't get too negative, keep flexible, keep open-minded, and just make the adjustments as the market, moves through this choppy phase here. You got to be nimble and you got to be quick. And thank you for watching, except for in honor of the great Steve Jobs. I have one more thing, and that is we're going to see some earnings report on Monday. We got Domino's Pizza, we got Hims and Hers after hours, and we got Zoom. You like Zoom video? I'm on Zoom video right now. They're going to report. Home Depot is going to report. The formerly mentioned Axon, which got destroyed last week. I use that term again, destroyed. Everything's so ugly and being destroyed. They're going to report though, and wouldn't be surprised to see a good report and have a good response to it. Workday is going to report on Tuesday, and CAVA is another one that's going to report. So they've been sold off down to the 200. I wouldn't be surprised to see them have a good report as well. Lowe's reports, they could be market moving in certain areas, sector moving, I should say. Snowflake reports. And of course, NVIDIA reports. This is one that's long awaited on the Thursday, right? Or Wednesday. And then Thursday, we have Vistra Energy reporting. That one has sold off. Norwegian Cruise Lines, obviously, with the COVID. I don't know about this COVID report. I got to look more into it this weekend. But this one is sold off prior to earnings. Obviously, the cruise lines, people aren't going to be taking cruises if we're going through that shenanigans again. And then DELL reports Thursday as well. So that's it. Exciting week to look forward to, a lot of volatility. And like I said with the index, it had, its best week of the year, then the worst week of the year. And that's kind of what we're getting here in this, we need some Dramamine for this, rocky ocean motion of a stock market. Anyway, thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.